Hi, I'm Jeannie Posner, and this is the Posner Property Perspective. As a realtor in Metro Atlanta, I've spent years helping people just like you buy, sell, and create homes that truly fit their lives. In this podcast, we'll dive into everything from home flipping tips, healthy home living, to exploring the unique lifestyles and charms of North Metro Atlanta. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned seller, or just curious about real estate, I'm here to educate, inspire, and to guide you through it all. Because buying or selling a home doesn't have to be stressful. It can actually be fun. So let's take a fresh perspective on real estate together. And I'll see you at the closing table. So welcome everyone to the Posner Property Perspective. We're here today with Justin Stoddart. We're very excited. Justin, if I'm right, you're out of California, correct?
I'm not. I'm actually Oregon, just north of California. Yep, just south of the Portland market in Oregon. So,
and you were just saying you had some exciting things going on with investors. So maybe we'll get a sneak peek of what's going on later in the conversation.
For sure.
So, you started your career, I guess, in the luxury market. Were you a builder?
Yeah, I was a high-end home builder. Actually developed land and built luxury properties. So luxury homes in Oregon. Sorry, it was in Utah at the time where I was at the time. I'm in Oregon now, but I was in Utah when I was a home builder developer. So,
and you are now a recent author of a book.
I am. Yeah, the Upstream Model, which you can see over my shoulder there.
And how did that come about?
You know, when I was a home builder, I was 25 at the time building luxury custom homes. How I got in that situation is another story.
Yeah.
But I went to work for a high-end home builder. He taught me everything he knew. And then he put me over his company and said, I'm going to go develop land. I want you to run our custom home division. So I said, okay, and learned it long enough, realized that his passion was land development. It wasn't high-end home building. So I bought out that division of his company and started my own. And I thought it would be just as easy to attract customers as he had made it appear. He was a very charismatic gentleman. And I quickly realized, like, boy, that's a whole nother business. It's not just serving the client, but getting the client. And so I realized I didn't have a big advertising budget. I didn't have a network, at least not one that was referring me $1 million construction projects. And so I had to get pretty savvy. I first tried joining like a local networking chapter, BNI. Maybe some of you are familiar with that, thinking that would help. And while I made some great friendships, nobody in that room really had the influence in my space to be able to help me. And it wasn't too long after that I had an aha that I didn't need to have a big advertising budget. I didn't need to have a big, even personal network. I needed to have a very specific network. I needed to have professionals who are positioned just upstream from a home builder. In other words, an architectural designer, for example, right? An interior designer. Like those professionals were serving clients just before they needed a builder. And if I built the right network with those professionals, I would have access to all the clients that I wanted before my competition knew that they existed. Because you see, it was common for builders to go to architects looking for projects to bid on, right? What was uncommon was someone to go in and less with their hand out and more about with their ear out. Like, how can it, like, tell me your goals, Mr. Architect. What are you trying to accomplish? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How can I help? And all of a sudden I started to get their attention. Is it like, this guy isn't just a typical builder. He actually wants to build a relationship and a partnership. And so because of that, I started to get some opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Of course, I took good care of those opportunities, and so it produced more. And I realized in that moment that having a strategic partnership network was the key. Really, upstream partners is what I call them. And those that are positioned just upstream from what you do for a living. And so I had the good fortune of choosing a new career path because the credit markets fell apart and construction was on pause for 3, 4, 5 years. And thankfully, I wasn't in love with building homes. I was in love with building businesses. I wasn't in love with developing land, but I was in love with developing people. And so I was recruited into the title and escrow industry. I had a good friend who was a sales manager for a company. He said, you're probably overqualified for this, but we're launching a Fortune 500 company into a new market, which was Portland, Oregon at the time. And he said, we could really use somebody that has a different value proposition than the typical title company value offering. And so he said, why don't you come and do this? And I figured I'd be there for a year. I was there for 7.5 years. And what it allowed me to do is to take the model that I had utilized as a home builder and begin teaching it to real estate agents. And that's how I began to attract business. And I began to get some really good feedback that, oh, wow, I've always wanted to get business from an estate attorney or a financial advisor or a tax professional. I just didn't know how. But now I see that they're just upstream from me, and to have the right conversation with them can open up a flow of professional referrals. And so that turned into enough feedback that I had a coach who said, you need to write a book on this. And I was like, write a book? I don't know how to write a book. But I sought the right support and ended up authoring a book on the topic. And that became a platform by which I left the title industry and began coaching real estate agents, which then led me to my partnership and kind of co-founder status with a company called Pro Insight, which is a digital platform that helps professionals who serve property owners to quickly and easily create those strategic alliances. So essentially what I learned as a home builder, fast forward now 20 years, we've got a digital platform that makes that really easy for people to step in and generate professional referrals and what we call work by professional referral. And in the process, create a business that's more transferable should they ever want to retire, which is probably interesting to most of us at some point.
The real estate agents, they never retire. So that's a good thing to start planning it.
Right. Why don't they, right? Yeah, because their businesses aren't optimized for that, right?
So it's a good change to make. Yeah. Interesting what you did, because Justin, one of the things I started last year, we're now about a year and a half old, is I started a networking group. And who did I invite in? People who they design the closets for customers. They design the kitchens. So they do estate sales. I started getting all these people. I said, look, we all need to be working together because we all come to clients in different ways. Who sees them first? We got the mortgage broker, and we've all gotten together, and it's been a great group, and we're all helping one another. And I know also now when I refer someone to them, I know they're going to be taken good care of. I know they're going to take care of my clients. And you develop this group of people that you can really trust and grow with, and you can market with them. So it's been a very successful. We started with, I guess, 8-10 people coming. We get about 25 people to a meeting, but we have the email list is about 400.
Wow.
I
love it. We think alike, my friend. We really do.
And
you've identified what few have, which is these relations. I don't have to have a giant database of leads, which is what our industry's taught, right? More leads, the better. More leads.
Lead gen, right?
Right. That's exactly what's taught. In other words, go chase strangers forever and ever. And it's like, no, I don't need to. I can have actually a small database of key professional partners that produce much better than a giant database that just has me pulling my hair out and really showing up as vanilla to everybody, right? I can be like Ben and Jerry's to this group. I can be like super good, right? To these professional partners. Whereas if I have 15,000 people in a leads database, it's like the only thing I can do is really email them. I can't even call them all, right? There's no relationship there. So yes, we believe very similar as far as how that goes. And so
no, I'd rather have my probate attorneys, my human resource. Those are the people who can give me immediate leads.
Yes.
They're not going to, they're not the long term. So yes.
Well, that exactly, Jeannie, is what happens is that when you have a lead, oftentimes they come from one of these big portals, which are filled with tire kickers, right? They're filled with window shoppers. So you spend resources for 6 months to turn that some small percentage of that into a real shopper, not a window shopper, but a real shopper, right?
Right.
The amount of the opportunity costs of spending that with this whole group of people who most of them won't convert, and instead taking that effort and putting it into serving your clients, offering a higher level service is a fantastic option. Meanwhile, you have these other professionals that are cultivating these relationships for you. And at the moment that you're needed, they transfer their trust to you, and you aren't shopped and you don't have to hassle or chase because it's like, oh, my financial advisor said I should talk to you first. So I'm here. It's like, it's yours to lose at that point, right? You could screw it up, but chances are you probably won't if you're good, right? And so you have the opportunity now to serve more people at a higher level because you can reinvest all that time of lead gen into client service, right? Which is what clients want. And I believe part of the reason why the industry has been troubled here over the past year or so or more is because people have been spending so much time in lead gen and too little time in client service, the clients are like, what did you do for me? Right. Well, it's because they had to do so much volume because they're given 40% to the big company that starts with a Z or somebody else, right? And lead gen, when they should be reinvesting that back in the client. Clients, like the general public, would not feel how they feel about real estate agents if people followed the model that you're following, Jeannie. And I love what you're doing.
And I think one of the things I've heard you say before is you want someone to be in an advisor position. Like we have to educate ourselves and know all. I'm a little bit of a numbers nerd. So I'm always looking at what the latest stats and what's happening in the market. And so because the minute you say to someone, I help people invest in real estate, they're going to say, well, what's going on in the market? That's coming. And you better know those numbers and be able to give them information. So it's important that you come from value and you can tell them what's happening and give them different perspectives.
Totally. Well, one thing that we've done also on our platform that's part of the kind of creating the buzz and excitement for us is that we created a product for our clients who are on our platform called the Deep Dive. If I'm a financial advisor, I know the quantity or the number of assets I'm managing for my clients in the market, right? I know the number of assets under management. Like every financial advisor will tell you, I know assets under management. They know, in other words, how much money they're managing for their clients in the market. What's uncommon until now is for people to know the real estate assets under management. In other words, all the properties owned by all of my clients. Right. So what we've created inside our app is the ability for you to safely and securely upload just some very basic info about your clients, and it gives you a feed of the properties that they own. That's all publicly recorded data, by the way, right? There's no private information here. It's all publicly recorded data, but it's putting it in a context that you can see top 10 recent transactions. You can see who are the clients have the highest interest rates. Who are my clients sorted by property net worth or by investment property net worth? We have 15 different categories that allow you to truly be an advisor, not just because you say so, but because I'm contacting people based on real data feed of what I see is happening in their life, and also looking to not just monetize that myself, but saying, you're at an age where we should probably talk about creating an estate plan for you, right? You've got all these properties and, you nor I are 25 anymore, right? And we should talk about how we get this situated to where this is a tremendous asset for your family as opposed to a burden. Like, do you have a great estate attorney in place, right? And in that process, they might be like, I actually want to sell the properties, right? And you're like, okay, I can help with that, right? So this data gives you not just the ability to be an advisor, but also to give real referrals to other people, which is super fun.
And it's interesting because you said something about being able to advise them about maybe they need how they set it up. Because I recently was working with someone who came to me through property manager, and they had multiple properties. And one of the things I realized is they had 15 properties that were all rentals, but all under the same company.
Interesting.
And I said, there's a problem there, because if you have someone who gets hurt at one of your properties, you've got them all owned by the same company. We need to set up either each house as an individual or a group of them to give you more protection. And I got him to the attorney, and he said no one had ever told him that, but he was at risk if something would have happened.
Isn't it interesting, Jeannie, that you've got people who have done tremendously well in their life, building a portfolio of real estate properties, and one small, almost technical error, right? Mm-hmm. Can create an absolute loss of, a tremendous liability. And I think that's exactly what it means to be an advisor, right? Is where you've got visibility on what's actually happening in their life, not just the chit chat of, can I swing something by this holiday season? Like, that's great, right? That deepens the relationship, right. But also having the data to be able to really guide people, right? If that's the way real estate agents and the other professionals that serve property owners showed up, people would love them. They would say, they're not paid enough. You realize how much they just protected me through that one conversation, right? It's just a totally different experience. And so, yeah, super cool. I love that you're doing that. You're in probably the top 1% of professionals who are thinking that way. Too many, again, they're so focused on finding the next lead. They don't stop to say, what else is happening in this person's situation that I might be able to assist. Me or my network of 20 plus people around me can help, right? And when you really come from that spirit of contribution, it ends up coming back tenfold to you because you're just serving people at a higher level, right?
That's so true. I mean, the people you surround yourself with are so important. Yeah. And I went to a meeting, the first meeting I went to with EXP, and I was sitting at a table, and everyone around me was icon multi times over. And I went, how am I at this table? But then I realized this is the table I want to be at, because they're going to raise me up, because just being a fly at the table and listening what I was learning and gaining from them and the doors that they've opened for me. So it's so important to be available to the people you surround yourself with, and to have people who, like yourself, they're giving back. They want to help their clients. They're looking for opportunities, but you have to be with people who are willing to work, who want to get the job done.
Totally.
So you have to be motivated, not expect it just to be handed to them. And some people just think things are going to fall in your lap. No, you've got to make it happen.
Well, we found it's interesting you say that, because one of the things that we realize is we're again, essentially we have a referral partner network, right? That's what our platform is. And some of the feedback is we were talking to people early stage of doing something like this. They said, in their mind, they were kind of going to a chamber of commerce type meeting, right? Online. It's like, I don't know. And the problem is there was no exclusivity, right? And there was no real vetting as to who's in the room. It's like anybody can call themselves a business owner. And so what we realized we had to do really early on, and it sounds like you've done this as well, is actually have some criteria by which people get in the room, right?
Right.
And one of the ways we've done that is a couple fold. Number one, are they serving a certain number of clients per year to where they're actually probably pretty good at what they do, right? And not so much, by the way, there's also a barrier on the other end. Are they selling so many properties that they have to be transactional? You just can't maintain that many relationships. For us, what we found with real estate, it was ideally the 2 to 4 clients a month was ideal, right? Now, with decreased transfer rates currently in the US, right, like comparable or lower than 2008, we recognize that, right, there's a little bit of flex on that right now. However, if you get someone who's kind of in that sweet spot, right, or at least wants to be in that sweet spot, what happens is you have somebody who is serving enough clients that they're really good, but not so many that it's just turn and burn, right? And so that became important for us, and the composition of their business. In other words, did they get it through online leads, or did they get it through referral? If they serve that many families and they do it by referral, awesome. Now, what we can do is either add 2 to 3 more clients per month, or we can just simply optimize to where now you're getting more of your business from professionals, which, by the way, makes your business more transferable than when it's tied to all your personal deep friendships of 30 years, right? Those are great for us, but no one else wants to buy those because they know they're not really going to transfer to you, right? In most cases. But when you have it to where it's coming from other businesses who are all referring each other, much more of an asset that can transfer.
So again, it's going back to how do you develop a business so that eventually you could retire, or you can be bringing in, I'm looking at expanding into a team. Because I've been mentoring and helping some younger agents, and I realized, maybe at some point I've got to make it into a more official team.
Yeah.
And how do I develop the resources, like you said, that are going to be bringing those referrals at a constant basis?
Right. Well, that's really I would say the first thing is, if all of your business comes again from very personal relationships, when you go to say, hey, client, I want you to meet with Susie, she's on my team. They'll be like, but I want to work with you, Jeannie. Like, we've been friends forever, right? And so when you start to, and again, keep getting those, right? You don't want to take your foot off the pedal.
Right, don't lose that.
Right. But if you can start to get some of that business from another professional, other professionals understand, like an attorney or a tax professional, they understand that there's somebody at their front desk who's taking calls that isn't them, right? And there's people who have different roles. Again, the more professional they are, the more they realize that a company that offers the highest level of service has some specialists that do different things, right? And so I think, again, our mission is really to optimize people's businesses. Sometimes that means grow. Sometimes it just means to level up the quality of clients, right? But that that process there for us is step one. It's how do we create some referral flow from other professionals? Because what that allows you to do is to then be able to begin to create, not just tied to your personality, but tied to a standard of care. And then that's what you're selling to the professionals is this is the standard of care. This is the person on my team who specializes. They're better than me at this. That's why they're in this role, right? Now you can really feel comfortable not feeling like you're giving people a handoff, right, to somebody else. But it's like, no, this is the person. And then one by one, right? Typically it's adding an administrative staff or two before you add somebody in sales, right? Is kind of the economic model that I've seen work best.
So, nope, I'm looking at a VA right now.
Smart.
So
Smart.
it's interesting. So expansion is a good thing. And especially it's interesting in a market like you've mentioned where it's more difficult. And yet I find myself personally, I'm busier than I have been in a January in a long time.
Awesome.
So, but I also say a lot of my investors, my joke has been all of a sudden in December, the very end of December, a lot of my investors were calling me, Jeannie, I have a property ready for you. I have a property ready for you to list. And I'm like, what happened? Like, what? Then I realized all their contractors needed to get paid for Christmas. So they all got the properties done. You know what? That was the motivating factor. I'm telling you, it was to get paid for Christmas because come that first week of January, all of a sudden I had 6 listings. They all wanted to get paid and they got the job done. So it was exciting.
That worked out well for everybody. It sounds like
it did. So,
well, it sounds like you're at an exciting point in your business, Jeannie. I love it. You're making some big moves, both in the way that you're thinking, as well as in the way, that you've obviously served clients at the highest level. And now you're saying, how do I do that for more people? Right. Which is exactly what I love to see, which is good agents duplicating their efforts, right. And serving more clients, because that only levels up how the overall general public gets served and feels about the real estate industry. So kudos to you.
Yeah. And even going to podcast, that's something new and different for me. But when you look at where people go now for education, they're going to YouTube and they're going to podcast.
Yeah.
So you have to change with the times and reinvent yourself.
It's so true. It's so true.
It sounds like you've had a few careers and always expanded and gotten better.
Yeah, it's been fun because I feel like they've built on each other, right? As I look back, my mom gives this analogy, maybe it's more of a metaphor that is worth considering. I think at times when you feel like, for example, I built a good home building business and all of a sudden like the spigot shut off, right? And at times where you're like, man, this is gnarly. Like this isn't what I had anticipated. And I remember her at different times in my life where I feel like I was hitting a bit of a dead end, where she said, and again, this is a little spiritual, so maybe some of your audience will appreciate this, others might, that's okay. She said, in this life, we're looking at the back of the tapestry, right? And we see, if you've ever seen a tapestry, right? There's knots and there's snags and there's this like, this is kind of ugly, right? Like I've kind of made a mess of this, right? Like, man. And then also at times in our life, and definitely at the end, we'll be brought around to look at the front of the tapestry and we're like, oh, all those knots were necessary because it created, right, the different colors that made up. And I always remember that when I think about maybe some of the challenges that I've run into over the years, and how now as I look back at the tapestry from the front side, I'm like, wow, that home building business was necessary. Going through that downturn was necessary because it actually got me out of home building, right, and brought me into a space where I could really be knee to knee with real estate agents for almost 8 years and really identifying what is their challenge and their, right, what are the biggest challenges they run into. Dipping back into my home building days to say, why don't we try this? Oh my goodness, that works, right? And then that led me, of course, to writing the book, which put me on stages, which then led me to meeting my now business partner and co-founder of Pro Insight, Don Yoakum. So anyway, long story short, sometimes if we look back with a kind of a grateful perspective, we start to see that maybe there was some orchestration there where it felt like it wasn't. And we start to see that things are actually happening for us, not to us.
It's that old saying, one door opens and one door closes, but the window opens, and it's true. You got to be able to see it. Yeah. I always tell my son, life is a book. You're just on one page and you haven't even gotten to the chapter yet. Don't even think about the ending. So you've got a lot of pages to fill.
Such good advice.
It's
such good
very
advice.
true. And looking at today's market, where do you said you had some exciting news? You were talking to some investors. What's coming up? What do you see coming down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably less tied to the real estate market, although I am very bullish. I think interest rates have been challenging. Inventory's been challenging, right, for everybody. I think even more and more baby boomers wanting to retire in place is challenging. People tied to low interest rates has been challenging.
Yeah,
but I do feel like there's a general sentiment that we're coming into a new era, right? That there's going to be more opportunity coming. And I don't know, it's just kind of something that I'm hearing and I'm feeling with people around me. And I don't know so much that it's tied to any one thing. I don't know that we can say interest rates are going to be back at 4%. You're saying, I don't know if that's true, right?
No,
But
I think if we can get to 5, we'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's enough pent up demand. And, at some point, sellers realize I don't want to be in this house forever and I'm going to have to make a change. I think that just takes some time. And again, we're very bullish on what we're bringing to the market, right? Is that right now, real estate agents and other professionals are in the crosshairs. Big tech won't admit that. They'll say, I'm your friend. I'm here to help you. I'll give you leads. But little by little, they're stealing the influence of these professionals. And that's what most big tech has done. It's stepped between clients and the professionals and then charged a tax, right? A 40% of revenue on every client that you close, you give that back to us. And it's just watered down the service. And so our aim has been, how do we build technology that empowers the professional and brings them closer to the client, not separates them and charges some crazy fee to get the client, but how do we charge, a very small, membership fee and give the tools and resources that really turn somebody into an advisor, right? And surrounded by other advisors from other industries, specifically those who are upstream, right, from you. And so that's what we're excited about. And that's what we have a lot of people really seeing, like, that's what the industry needs. So anyway, our bullishness is on solving the problem of really helping people to have more and better quality of business while optimizing for acquisition. And sometimes people are like, acquisition, I'm not going to sell my business. I love this thing. I've got another 30 years, right? And I just give this metaphor is that if you've ever gone to sell a car or a house, and just before you do, well, that was fun, you get it detailed, right? You get the car detailed. And afterwards, you say to yourself, like, why would I sell? This car is actually kind of nice. I don't want to sell it, right? Or a house, like, we're going to remodel the kitchen and then we're going to sell it. And afterwards, you're like, why would we sell this house? Like, sometimes optimizing your business for acquisition just simply gives you a better quality of life and a better business, right? To be able to really enjoy for a longer period of time. So sometimes preparing and optimizing for acquisition doesn't mean you actually sell it.
Well, I want to thank you, Justin, for sharing your words today, guiding us all, helping us agents get to the next level. And we're going to see you with bigger and better things and on the next stage in the future.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for joining us here at the Posner Property Perspective.
Thanks for tuning into the Posner Property Perspective. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it helpful as you navigate your real estate journey. Remember, whether you're buying, selling, or just exploring the market, I'm here to help to make the process smooth, exciting, and stress-free. Let's take the next step together. Contact me today. I'd love to hear from you and make your real estate wishes come true. Until next time, take care, stay inspired, and I'll see you at the closing table.